Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 5 of the Amanda Natanda Show. I'm Amanda, and thank you guys for watching. This season will have a totally different vibe as we go topical, and we'll be focused on cherishing the man in every aspect, from their mental health to their emotional and social well-being. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest today. She is one of the best-selling authors of the book Identity Crisis, Find the Hidden Treasure Within You. Also a life coach and one of my close friends, Shingie Fundira.
Thank you, Amanda Natanda. How are you?
I am good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. You look amazing in green.
You too, you look amazing in green. This is a way of telling people that, you know what, we didn't even plan this. Talk about, knowing your friends, right?
Absolutely. You know, they say birds of a feather flock together.
Flock together, exactly. That is awesome. Thank you so much. You look beautiful yourself. So this episode is going to give a brief summary of your understanding of each episode, not only from a life coach point of view, or an author based off of your book, because of course this season is also in tally with your book, so which is quite exciting. And the book is Identity Crisis, for those who do not know or have it yet. We're going to talk about that towards the end. So the reason for it is to address the issues that men face, as expressive as we are in nature, us women, right? Which inevitably forces them to suffer in silence as they're told to man up, not show any sense of emotion or vulnerability, yet they're also human, right? So we want to also evaluate and see if we understood what each guest highlighted for us, as we were created to gravitate towards being the helpers that we're meant to be. Only then will we be able to support each other to minimize the rising suicide rates in men, broken relationships, high divorce rates, men's mental health, etc. Right? But besides, they also, deserve to be heard. Is that not correct, Shingie?
That is correct. I think everybody deserves to be heard, but more so, as you mentioned, the boy child, I think for a while has not been heard because of, number one, you look at culture, you look at tradition, you look at environment, and you also look at upbringing. And I think those different factors have, to a certain extent, contributed to men's mental health.
Right, that is so true. So let's just dive right into it as we, show the first episode with Kudakwashi Makure.
So if you want, it's not difficult. Let me tell you, it's not difficult for men to share, even with their spouses, right? That is the point of marriage and the union. Because in a perfect world, with a perfect Adam, in a perfect garden, right? A perfect world, a perfect God, a perfect garden, a perfect Adam. God still says, this man needs help. And then in he brings the female. So if in God's perfect garden, God's perfect Adam still needed help from a female, a man does need that companionship, right? It's very important. The only thing that the female needs to ensure of is that she creates a safe space.
Environment. That's it.
Otherwise, your guy is going to start coming to Amanda, right? And this one has to start going to this one. It's like how, my issues around what's going on with me, I should be able to say to my wife, you know what? I think I know what I dealt with. You know when my dad died? My dad was my biggest cheerleader.
So Shingie, there you go. Such powerful words, girl. What you got to say about this one?
So, first of all, I applaud Kuda for his phenomenal story. He touched on basic things and these things that affect a lot of us, and I think most men would actually resonate quite a lot. Unresolved trauma will inevitably have a negative impact on men's mental health because there's so many things that if they're not dealt with from a earlier stage, when you carry on, this may then become generational. You will have negative effects in your relationships with your friends, with your co-workers, with your partner, whether you are in a marriage or you're engaged or whatever relationship that you have. And I think some of these things that are unspoken about, because like he said, you're told not to cry, you're just told to be a man, but nobody really tells you what being a man is. You are conditioned to oppress feelings and emotions, and sometimes we realize that they then tend to sprout or come out at the wrong time, and then you might actually think that somebody is abusive, but then they are abusive unconsciously, because to them the way they're behaving is what they have known for that many years. So then how then do we deal with such trauma, childhood trauma? We need to be able to identify by asking the right questions. I always encourage people, whether you're starting a relationship or you're halfway through a relationship, try and dig deeper into the roots. Who is this person? Where do they come from? What is their family like? What are their friends like? What religion? What habits? How do they behave when they're happy? How do they behave when they're sad? Try and unpick as much as you can, so that you can try and understand where this whole behavior is coming from before you label somebody as a bad person. Because as I mentioned, somebody might be going through certain things and they haven't had an opportunity to fully express themselves. So relating to identity crisis, childhood trauma, you haven't got an identity, you're conditioned to speak, to talk, to behave, and to oppress certain things. So I think what Kuda managed to highlight there is, you can't remain the person who was abused or went through certain things for a long time. You just have to then come out and say, listen, I really want change, and change has to start from within. You have to push for those things, but those things will only happen if we're within the right environment and we've got the right sort of support. Because as he also mentioned, energy doesn't lie. You can pick when something is not right. But I just want to say, it's asking the right questions. It's focusing and trying to go into the right direction with regards to trying to let those things that have been compacted in your life for a very long time.
So, question, you highlighted something really profound there, where you said, as a you spoke about the boy child, right? And we also have a moment, we also know that growing up, the girl child is the one that gets the opportunity to be taught on how to deal with situations, how to dig deeper, like you said, to say, look at the root cause. And we've seen in so many relationships or marriages, I don't know if it's me, but also as a life coach, you would know better or know more, in the sense of seeing men not being able to go to the root cause, but then based off of, they go to the reaction. How do you react this way? But then as women, we are to dig deeper. How then do we bring that out without offending the next person, but having a gentle way of saying it? Because sometimes you can't teach an old dog new tricks, because that's all they know, right? It's a matter of reconditioning the mind.
Yeah. So reconditioning is something that takes a while. It just doesn't happen overnight. Imagine you're in a relationship with somebody who's like 30 something years old. They have been conditioned to think in a certain way for 30 odd years. So it's going to take you more or less the same amount of time to try and undo certain behaviors and certain, ways of speaking to people or conducting certain things. There's certain things right now that we might not be able to change, but we need to look at moving into changing certain things, working on those things. Yes, the girl child is taught a lot from a very young age, but at the same time, the girl child is also responsible for nurturing her children, the mothers, our mothers. I'm not saying they've got full responsibility when it comes to the boy child, because there's certain things that men can only learn from men and women can only learn from women. However, those parts we need to try and encourage as the next generation, to try and let people have that freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So if there's anything wrong, we need to try and encourage them to speak out without feeling any form of, I can't talk about this because I'm a man. I can't this, because as I mentioned earlier, it all has to do with tradition. It has to do with culture. You know very well we are of an African heritage, and when you try to express yourself, you're told you don't talk back to me because that is rude. So that has to a certain extent then affected how we then behave. For example, now we are in the diaspora, you're in Canada, I'm in the UK, so now you get hit by culture shock where
Oh,
people
trust
can
me.
freely talk about this thing. So I think it's just trying to embed all those different, because we are quite exposed, so we being that generation are now responsible for encouraging people to come out of those boxes, come out of those, that sort of like mindset where you think it's not okay. As I said, the other generation would take a while to step up or to catch up, but from now onwards, let's try and do as much as we can to try and encourage freedom of speech, try and encourage people to talk about things. That way this mental health situation does not get to the next generation. So I would say, in as much as we are moving and we really want to change, we also have to bear in mind that it's going to take a while, and we have to be very patient even as we encourage and inspire people to speak up.
That is so true. And so moving on to guest number 2, which happened to be Donovan Chemwaye, where we spoke about emotional abuse and a review on your book, Identity Crisis. Let's take a look at this.
Like I mentioned, I was in a relationship that time I read the letter. Unfortunately, that relationship ended. So I then got to a point where...
Oh, by the way, ladies, just so you know, he is actually single if you're watching this. Anyway. Just to lighten up the
single. I'm single and healing, ladies. I'm single and
there we
healing.
go. You know the one thing I appreciate about that statement? God, Donovan, you have no idea. People, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to put it right straight, especially men, have this whole thing. I'm just going to move to the next. I'll move to the next. Without having to figure you out first. Aha, Identity Crisis author. Take it away.
Donovan. Absolutely adore Donovan. Like, he is matured a lot, Mr. Single. I am single, still healing.
Healing? Yes! He's probably laughing right now. It's like, oh my gosh, Shingie, stop.
Do you know, I loved how he even unpacked one of the chapters, the butterfly identity, the butterfly analogy with regards to identity crisis, because it gives you the different stages where, as a person, you try and realize where you are. So, like, even with identifying where you are in life, the same goes for mental health. There are different stages. Some people have got like when it starts, like that initial stage, then sometimes it moves on to like a moderate stage. You can then have like mild, moderate, severe. Sometimes it's like gone past severe where it's irreversible. However, being able to identify these different stages can help you deal with it accordingly. So just how he then managed to deal with some family issues, even some relationship issues as well. He did mention that, he was in a relationship, then it ended up happening, but he had to dig deeper. And it's not an easy thing, to try and undo certain things, especially when you're involved with somebody, when two people are involved. However, having a relationship, he did mention that he's got a relationship with God. He's got that one thing that he can tend to, you know. A lot of people need to find that one thing they can refer to, a point of reference. Like, I can call you anytime, Amanda, and say this is what's happening. Sometimes all we need is somebody to listen to us, you know. But at the same time, before we even get to that stage, we need to be able to just be self-aware of what is happening within, you know, and be able to accept, especially if there are any mistakes, any things that we really need to address so that we can move on accordingly. Because I think one of the things is fear and denial of what's right in front of you. So with regards to that whole identity crisis aspect, you have to then ask yourself, what is it that I really, really want out of life? And if you identify you've got mental health, what is it that I really, really want to deal with in order to come out of this stage? You know, it's identifying and then finding ways to approach that issue so that it can be resolved.
Right. That is powerful. And, you know, even just your whole book itself, where there's all the identities you can think of. And we're going to talk more about that towards the end. So moving forward, we have Kishan Jack, who was talking about men's health. Yeah. Talk about men not wanting to go and get checked because, you know what? Nah, men just don't get sick, is what they believe, right? Nah, everyone gets sick. Let's listen to Kishan. So do you want to walk us through the vulnerable moment of tearing down, you know, and how that made you feel?
Yeah. There's one moment that really sticks out.
Yeah.
Throughout the course of the week, I've been watching several shows, and they had brought up kidney issues or kidney disease, whether it be in a comedy or on any of those. And then I was watching one medical show, a medical drama, and somebody had a kidney issue, and they were going and they were cutting in. And I kind of freaked out because I was like, oh my word, that's what they're going to do to me. They're going to cut me open. And I started just crying, and I couldn't figure it out. And I called my wife. She was in a meeting for work, so she couldn't answer. I had to call my mom. And I was like, Mom, and she's like, what is wrong? Because I was almost incoherent because I was crying so hard. And I had to just really just be like, why is this happening to me? I'm being cut open, and they're gonna what are they gonna do? What's gonna happen when I'm under? And I started really, really panicking.
And some people don't make it through it.
And luckily, you know, I have a mom who was a nurse for 30 years.
Wow.
So she was able to just help kind of walk me through and brought me down. And as I started to pull it back together, my wife was able to give me a call afterwards. And talking to her, you know, that really helped to round it in. So having those two strong women that were there, when you do break down, you've got to just let it happen and just let that breakdown happen and call someone trusted that you can go and just lay it out for and just say, here's where I am and I don't know what to do.
Yes. What do you got to say about that, honey?
That is quite a touching story. You know, people are dealing with different issues in life. Kishan's story really, really touched me. It's quite humbling. But one thing I like about his energy is that at first he was in denial. At first he was this whole, I'm okay. I don't need to go, for tests. I don't need to go and get seen. I don't need to. But when he eventually decided to do it and then found out, you know, he didn't then delay to do the necessary bits. Because sometimes we find out, but the problem is we then try and give excuses to get their help. Try and give it, or we may start to have PE parties for whatever reason. But I love the fact that he said, listen, I'm going to face this thing and I'm going to deal with it. And the thing about it is having that support. You know, his wife was there throughout. Everybody needs a system support, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, it's the church, work, whatever network that you've got. And I think this is what helped with his state. Because imagine if he didn't have anybody to fall back on or a shoulder to lean on, it might have made things worse. Because a lot of mental health issues now, people that then continue or go on to commit suicide, is because they lack that sort of like support system and people that can be able to handle, So I just want to encourage anybody out there who's going through whatever form of mental health with regards to men's health, because I'm not a man, so I don't know what other men health issues men go through, but whatever it is, do not be afraid. Go and get checked. It's okay to get the help. The assistance is there. Look at Kishan. He wouldn't have been here today sharing his story if he had, felt like, oh, this is not me. This is only for this kind of, race, or black people don't go and do that stuff. Like, do the necessary bits. There are people that are crying out to help you. Do not ignore, do not block them. Whatever help you can get in the best possible way, you could be giving another testimony, a whole life changing situation. Now he's able to look after his wife, and now those kids have got a father, they've got a future, to look up to. As I mentioned, everyone is a great friend to a certain extent, but the greater friends are the ones that then go that extra mile. Kishan's greater friend in this case was his wife, that life support. And it just reminds me what it says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing.
Well, that wife gotta be a good
Lord.
person. That is exactly it. Okay, thank you for the preaching, by the way. I was about to say she's studying Bible school, but yeah, she is actually studying Bible school. Here we go. Anyway, thank you so much for that feedback, Shingie. And now moving forward to DJ SK, who's based all the way in the States, who was talking about who became vulnerable on social media. We found him on social media based off of his post that was filled with a whole lot of vulnerability. Talk about men being vulnerable. And this is also based off of men's mental health. But before we get into it, let's just give a glimpse of this episode.
What I put out there is what I want the world to see, what I want you to know, but it's probably 20% of my entire life. You have no idea all the things I shared with you today in this show. No one has ever heard me talk about alcohol abuse. I've never put it out there on social media, but I don't know why I got the courage to say it today. But I guess it needed to be said, right? So this is maybe an advice to people that what you see on social media, best believe it's not the entire picture. It's probably just a fraction of what people just want you to see. But there's so much more to a person, so much more to who they are, their family, their values, etc. But if you want to have that tunnel vision where you just look at a person on social media and that's all you take from them, then that's a shame.
There you have it. Ms.
Wow.
Shingie. I know.
Show you that it doesn't matter how big you are, whether you are a celebrity or whether you're just some random person walking, down the street. Everybody has got a point of weakness. Everybody gets to a point where they just fall down. Everything just comes down, crumbling and crushing. And what we saw with DJ, with Simba there, is that he had to accept. I think for him, acceptance was the first thing, because think about what you mentioned about trying to shy away, run, and then resorting to alcohol and all these things. Like, people will tend to resort to different things. Alcoholism, right? You get an addiction. I can't even...
Hoping that it will actually mask a lot of things, or maybe you're just trying to run away, right? Or hide.
Exactly. I understand a lot about addiction. I love my coffee. But
I know that. Yeah.
But I think the thing that really was profound is him encouraging people to find that escape bit. I'm not talking about the negative escape. I'm talking about that positive one where you go into it and say, okay, this really isn't me. How do I find strength? And he mentioned that he needs, men need a man cave. I find it's like the space where they then get to go through emotions, think through certain things. And I think as women, sometimes we don't want to give men space because we are very emotional human beings. We want all the attention. We want to hang out with you, men. But sometimes they just need to breathe because they've got a lot of pressure, to deal with, looking after us, looking after kids, looking after family, responsibilities, jobs, you name it. And I'm not saying women are not there helping, they are. But I think a man, as the way it's structured, the man being the head of the house has more pressure to provide and to be seen as, the one doing everything to carry the entire family. What I found quite encouraging as well is him having to realize that he was going downhill. Had he kept on drinking, it would have literally gone down the drain. But then he managed to go back to that point where it's like a reset button. Sometimes you gotta fall back and think, why am I doing? How did I get here? Write your do's and your don'ts. Your how did this happen and why is this happening right now? Like, that whole introspection, that digging in again to see if you can go back to the space where if you're thinking, I started drinking a lot because this happened. Now, when you get to the root cause of why that was happening, now you can get the help that you need. But then if you keep drinking and keep running away, it's not going to change the outcome because, number one, you're using a lot of money to buy alcohol. Number two, it's taking away time for you to be productive. You become this person that you're not. Again, another form of identity crisis where you're trying to juggle and deal with things, but there just seems to not be a point where you can rest and where you can relax. So his faith was his positive escape. He went back to the thing that he believed in, the thing that carried him, the thing that he knew that for with God nothing shall be impossible. So find that space, because not everybody's a Christian, but those that are Christians would know with God, he will never leave nor forsake you. Some people believe you can go for a walk. Some people believe you can, hang out with your, like, just find that one thing that helps you unwind, reset, and be able to think things through.
Yeah, that is so true. But then again, as you were speaking, and also as he was speaking, I still have this question of how one can get to that realization to say, I am becoming addicted to alcohol without anyone approaching them, confronting them, telling them that, you know what, you're getting addicted to something that's going to lead you south. Like, how do you get to the realization? You spoke about him having faith or religion being his backup, right? How do you think a regular not a regular, that is not regular, but somebody maybe who does not believe in God or just have a different way of belief, how would you encourage them to look back? Because you're in a situation, mental health is interesting, right?
Yeah.
You can get to a point where there's a Vegas shoot that happened a while ago where there was a concert and whatever, right? But because it was something that he struggled with, even his mom, the shooter's mom and the shooter's dad, it was in the family, right? So that's all he knows. How then do you get to a point where I need help? I need to figure out where this is coming from and all that sort of stuff.
So there's a lot of different, help you can get out there. And I think, Amanda, if you look deep within, like you've been through a lot, I've been through a lot, when things are not right, nobody needs to tell you. And I think now, with regards to, and I address some of those things, for example, in friends' identity, family identity, love identity, we get into situations where the red flags are there. They're right there. But your hope is things will change, So you can keep holding on to certain things thinking, okay, if I hold on to this thing, maybe this person can carry me. Because sometimes the mistake we make is opening up too much to people, and the people we open up to then manipulate that information.
Use it against
They
you.
use that information against us, and we become more of like a little slave to those people. So some of them are narcissists, and
That's
they're
it.
good at centering everything around them. When you find yourself overly extending yourself, overly compromising, you're not comfortable, you can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't do the things that you need to enjoy anymore. It's more of them and less of you. Like, you can tell. I'm sure you've had people sometimes saying to you, you've lost weight, or you've gained weight. There's always something tangible, something that we can see, whether it's in behavior way, or for example, if I always to be very chatty and online, and then someone says to me, oh, Shingie, you're always this, and that affects me, and then I shy away from it, somebody would be able to notice it. So when it comes to friends identity, you've got people that will be open and tell you. Sometimes we do not want to listen because we are the know-it-all, right? The regular person has to, like I said, there's so many different places where you can access help online. You can get signposted to all these different things. Find the one person you can trust with information. If not, find a stranger. For example, a therapist is a stranger, right? These people don't know you. They may be able to listen to your story in a different way, but whatever the case may be, there's always something. There's not any time or a point where there's nobody. Sometimes help is in front of you, but you're just not ready to be helped.
Powerful. We're catching them butterflies. I remember you asking, why are you catching them butterflies? But yes, that is so true. And the rest of the interviews that we have Daniel Steger, we have Tony Friday, we have Kelly Rudy, who all of those three spoke about men's mental health in different ways. They spoke about their stories. Talk about a prominent person, Tony Friday, who struggled with his situation, which led him
attempted
to
suicide
twice.
Yes.
Right? Talk about Kelly Rudy, a prominent sportsman right here in Canada, still going through a situation where he's like, you know what? I need help.
Yeah. And he did. You know the thing with Kelly Rudy, what I found very profound there, and listen, I applaud him for coming out and sharing his story, and also encouraging, because there are a lot of people out there, especially celebrities, that are going through it, but because you are a celebrity, you have to be strong for everyone else, for the greater good. People think you're inhuman, like you don't have issues, everything runs perfectly, but you go through the most because you're trying to keep this whole image where everyone's like, you're my role model, and like role models can never get anything wrong, but role models are human beings too.
They are the ones I actually believe struggle the most, because you're trying to hold it together for your fans, for your family, and for yourself.
I love the fact that he had support. In Africa, as a celebrity, most people, when they start going through, people will start trolling you, like literally. They bring you up, and they also bring you down. And it's the responsibility of your management team to help look after you, to be able to notice some of these things so they can deal with it accordingly, So he had a great network around him that was able to then encourage and push. And when he was not ready to do certain things, he was allowed to find that escape, get into his man cave. And he also had posted notes to try and remind him, like, you can do this, you can drive this, you can, which is why I said, find that one thing that encourages you, that keeps you going. I will tell you, one of the things that I look at every day when I wake up, like my favorite verse is Luke 1:37. It says, "For with God nothing shall be impossible." So if anything seems impossible to me, if I'm given a task where I think, how am I going to do this? I just remember nothing shall be impossible with God. So my to-go-to is God, you know. You just have to find that support system. Some people go to the gym. I know you love going to the gym, you know. Some people have to go and run. Some people have to go and like just do something to help you. Sometimes you need to help yourself in order to be helped, you know. Because everyone is so busy nowadays doing whatever it is that they're doing, especially after the pandemic. It affected a lot of people. So you might not get as many people coming to lift you up. Those expectations. And what do I always say to you, Amanda?
Expectations kill.
If you expect people to always turn up at the right time, sometimes they're not there because they're also expecting you to turn up for them. So if you're both expecting one another to turn up for each other, then what happens? You know, that is another form of mental identity. There's a new one.
I think we need to. You need to just add that book, like that chapter in there.
I think I need to add a mental identity crisis.
Absolutely.
You know, we have to encourage ourselves in as much as we want people to encourage and inspire us. You know, speak out. Amanda, this great show that you've done to try and bring men to that place. Yes, we're speaking about being vulnerable. We're not saying lose your manhood. We're not saying become like women. We're just saying speak up. You know, find.
And the one thing that you even mentioned, go to a therapist. Like, if you cannot speak to your woman, if you feel that it's gonna emasculate you in a certain way, just go to a therapist. A therapist doesn't know you. A therapist doesn't need to disclose your information to your wife or whatever, because your privacy is important, right? Yeah.
We still want our men to be
to show
men,
up. Yeah.
but the men that are vulnerable enough to deal with these things as they come, so that the pressure doesn't amount to a point where they want to commit suicide, right? And we don't want our women to take over the manhood or men becoming more like women. No, we still have to understand a man is a man, a woman is a woman, but we just want to be able to engage so that that whole stigma, the whole you can't do this, you can't cry because you're, I mean, even Jesus cried, he wept, you know. So we want
the shortest verse in the Bible, eh?
And I always say there's a season and a time for everything.
For
there's
everything.
a time to cry, and there's a time to laugh as well. Cry it out. Don't let it mount out. Cry it out, and then before you know it, that is your healing stage. Starting.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. And let's talk about Daniel Steger's story, where he just decided overnight. Think about having a prominent father in the ring being beat up by that belt. You know, like that huge belt. Well, because he's used to it, it's work, but he's bringing work home. Imagine if he was somebody like some of the prominent people that we know who give excuses to say, well, I grew up in an abusive environment, that's all I know, right? But then he managed to change his mind and say, you know, to change his way of thinking and say, you know what, I'm not going to do this, and I am going to be supporting every boy child out there. Yeah. Let's talk about Daniel Steger.
Physical abuse is something that I do not subscribe to, you know.
But what's physical abuse compared to our culture?
We grew up in a way that is called being disciplined, right? But the way you discipline a child varies. There is disciplining, and then there is abuse, you know.
Okay.
You can't exactly control certain situations, and this goes back to Kuda's, you know, childhood trauma, and you can understand why he did what he did because he came from that background. So therefore, that generational thing carried on, you know. And I'm glad it got to a point where Daniel said, no, I will not become my father, you know,
and switched overnight
to stop somewhere. But it didn't switch when he was young. It switched when he became older and mature enough to think it through, to process the whole thing. It's something that was within. You remember, like, my sub theme is unlocking the hidden treasure within. He realized that this was like a damaging relationship, this was a damaging character, this was a damaging habit, and it had damaged so many lives, but he didn't allow it to consume him. He didn't allow it to drown him, because that could have led to irreversible things. So I think when we see or hear other people that are in such situations, we can try as much as possible to give enough information that they're directed to the right places, because some people are so used to harm or abuse so much that it's the norm for them. If they don't get beaten up, then they don't feel loved. If they don't get that physical abuse, then they don't feel loved, because it's all they know. Coming back to that conditioned mindset where you think the wrong stuff is the right thing. So it will take a bit of time, but Daniel put it nicely. You have to get to that point where you stand on your 2 feet. Enough is enough. That mindset change will then lead you to take the necessary steps to get the kind of help that you need. But do not condone physical abuse or any form of abuse at all. That is mental health.
Right. And this name that I'm going to say right now, I am not going to say more. I am not going to say any less other than his name. And you take it on. Tony Friday.
Yeah. Tony Friday. Wow.
Yeah.
We had, I can't remember the South African artist who took his life. Was it last year?
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah. I forgot his name though, but yeah.
People looked up to him so much, and the next thing, boom, he was gone.
Yeah.
And it was,
or even just the one that Ellen's DJ too. Ellen DeGeneres DJ.
Yeah. And the signs were there, and it was in his lyrics, the last song he wrote, what he was going through. And as I mentioned earlier, you asked me, how then do people get help out? The signs are always there. But sometimes we're too blind to see, we're too deaf to hear, and try and solve these things. So if you think there's something wrong with a friend, with a lover, with a sister, with a brother, with a neighbor, approach them. Get the help. If they don't want to talk to you, find other ways of encouraging. Write a little post-it note to say, seek help here. Reach out. They say, be your sister's keeper, be your brother's keeper. You don't lose much from just checking in and saying, hey friend, how are you? Hey friend, what's happening in your life? Hey friend, do you want to go for a cuppa? And that's how people can actually come out and come clean. Tony, oh wow. When the time is not yet there,
two attempted suicides, man.
He tried everything, but I'm glad he had the friend who kept pressing until the friend realized that something didn't add up. Right. I've got another friend as well where you have to press and press and press before she can actually tell you what's going on, because that's just how some people are. It's trauma, it's childhood. She was in an abusive marriage, right? So it takes her a while to open up and try and seek the help. But now she's getting to that point where she's seeing someone now, well, a therapist, and she's getting the necessary help, to try and manage a situation. She's gaining the confidence back, and she's just got to that place where she's like, wow, I didn't realize all I needed was just to sit down with somebody that can listen. So don't take your life just because you think this is the end of the road. Speak to somebody and get the help that you require.
And that is so true. Those were so powerful. And last but not least, Makache Chimsab.
Let me tell you what happens in life. I was married for 18 years. That was the face I saw first every day, and the face I saw last every day of my life. So for 18 years, I lived with that soul, and now she was gone. We were so close that at some point I thought I would follow her. But guess what? There's a pain that when it hits you, you begin to ask questions about life in general. Why should people feel pain this way?
Yeah.
Why should people remain alive when others cross over?
Mm.
That was the time I met myself. Do you understand when I say, when you go to a mirror, you look at the mirror. When you look at the mirror, you are not looking at your physical body only, but no, you go beyond your physical body with questions unanswered. Why should I feel this pain? Where has my friend gone? What is this thing called death?
Girl.
No man talks about grieving.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, cheers to that, girl. No man talks about grieving, let alone write it out for the world to share how it feels or what it is, what it feels like being a single parent father, raising your kids and getting to a point where you say, you know what, this is for other men. Here's a very statement for other men to not go out there and find somebody thinking that they're supposed to come and help you raise your kids, you and your kids, your late wife's kids. Like, you know what? I had to interview him, not because he's my uncle, but I felt like grief is one of the biggest things that men not deal with. Talk about our culture where women are, oh my gosh, and men are just sitting there by the campfires, drinking and whatever, but you don't know what they're going through. They're expressing how they're feeling. But somebody then goes on to write the book about it.
I cannot even say enough, take away, add enough.
Mm-hmm.
Your uncle is full of wisdom, like just walking knowledge, wisdom, and understanding right there. And what he shared with his experience, and I like the disclaimer that he actually put out there to say, I'm not trying to encourage people or to persuade people to follow what I followed. I did what I did to identify who I am. Mm-hmm. He found himself. Mm-hmm. He lost a loved one, he lost a partner, and he was left to look after the children by himself. That can happen to anybody. Mm-hmm. But he had to deal with it accordingly. Denial, that then came to a place where he didn't speak to anybody for over 10 years. He was in his own little space. I suppose in this case, that was his man cave, where he just wanted to be allowed to be himself and to do things his own way as well. Sometimes people can disown us for wanting to be ourselves. Some people think we've lost it. In our culture, they would have said he's lost it, mental health. He needs to be locked up, But if we allow people to become the best version of themselves, which he did, they're better able to then encourage the rest of the world. And I'm still to get his book. Everything was powerful. Everything he's mentioned. So though I may not agree with certain things, but majority of it for me, where nobody can move him or shake him, because he knows whom he is. And that whole grieving part as well is part of what causes a lot of mental health issues in a lot of people's lives, where you're holding on to, but mom or but dad, we're supposed to be there until I finish school, You're supposed to carry me through. We've seen people that have lost loved ones and they have just gone down the drain. They've never been able to recover. Grief hasn't got like a time span. Some people grieve for a day. Some people grieve for a month. Some for a year. Some for decades. Some never get out of that whole grieving situation. But I want to say, finding your true identity, finding yourself and finding ways to then come back and balance. It's all about balance. Everybody has lost somebody. Again, going back to the pandemic, we lost a lot of people. But do we stay in that grieving moment, or do we find ways to move on? Because we've got responsibilities to do. We've got people to look after. We've got wives to look after, children, parents, and everyone else. So I think having to not have fear, because one of the things that he says is do not fear.
And because fear does not come from God or the higher being, he calls it, right?
There you go.
Funny, another powerful thing he mentioned in the episode is the fact that he said, oh no, I'm actually redoing my book because the first one was filled with emotions.
There you go.
Who admits, and like as a man, we spoke about vulnerability as a man. We spoke about speaking up as a man. But like you said, he's not moved by what you think of him. What he says is what he thinks, what he believes, and he keeps moving.
Amanda, you are here today because you put fear aside. It's not been an easy journey. So just trying to join those two things together. You've had people talk you down. You've had people try to discourage you. People try to really, really crush you to crumble so that but you stepped up. That is pruning. That is part of growth. That is part of strengthening as well. Fear, the opposite of that is the faith. The faith to pick up and say, I want to tap into the men's mind. I want to tap into mental health, but I'm not going to talk about the girl child because we're always talking about that alone. Somebody would have said, but you are a woman. What do you know about men? Of course.
Like I was told, girl. I was told that. I was told by a lot of people, you live in a woman's world. Like, excuse me, you're going to be known. You live in a woman's world. Excuse me. I'm like, somebody has to stand up for something. And this is what I stand up for.
If this was a woman's world, we would not be where we are today. Because without men, we need each other. It's like the body. The head without the neck is nothing. The hands without the shoulders or the everything. We all need each other. I think we need to stop this whole, it's a man's world, it's a woman's world.
It's
our world. Let's stop dividing, because this division thing is what creates, We can't define roles, positions, and expect things to be unified, Even when a man and a woman get married, they become one. We need to become one in the sense that you as a woman trying to bring out the vulnerability and encouraging men to become the best version of themselves is because of that nurturing part that you kept mentioning, your episodes, right? So that nurturing part is saying, listen, man, my man, my boss, my pastor, my brother, my preacher, my father, we're here. I'm your Proverbs 31 woman. I'm there to encourage. I'm there to make sure I pick up the pieces. I'm here to signpost you. I'm not here to take over, but I'm here to try and assist in the best possible way. Like I said, we also need to be careful as women how we encourage our men to speak up. Because then if we do it in a way that we want to take, we want to be manly, you can't have two men in the same house.
No. Absolutely not.
So we still know our position. So in as much as we're encouraging, one thing we need to do, we need to be encouraged in a respectful manner. Carry ourselves so that they do not fear to come out. They do not fear to voice out. They do not fear to express themselves. Because the moment then we're like, I'm a boss lady, I'm an independent woman. We are not doing things in the right way. There is order in the world. There is order in the world. If we try and rearrange the order, that discourse, that disparity will not help us in trying to manage that whole mental health we're trying to address. you know. So in as much as we're doing as much as we can, we also need to just keep in mind that we need to balance things by staying in our position and being able to sit at that beautiful gate, but still encouraging our men to flourish as they become the best version of themselves by expressing and dealing with whatever issues they're going through accordingly.
Wow. That is so profound. Talk about the wisdom coming from a life coach and another one of the best-selling authors, you know. Yes, which brings me to a couple of questions before we round off, as we have already broken down each and every episode to give a glimpse to our guest today to say, you know what, this is what we've been working on, and that's the reason why we're summarizing and kind of giving a little bit of analysis of each episode. And I truly appreciate it coming from a life coach, a point of view. So after watching the whole season, was there anything that stood out for you in each episode?
Every man that spoke out stood out for me. I cannot single any of them out. It was a diverse, profound, overwhelming in a good way, you know, series where each and every one really portrayed the different issues that every other man out there is facing. So I can't single out and say this was amazing or that. They were all phenomenal. Their messages were powerful. Their testimonies were powerful. That alone is quite encouraging because we are trying to break that generational stigma, generational silence, you know, the oppression. And we're saying, speak out. These things happen. Let's come out there. Let's deal with the issues. Let's go out there. Let's try and do as much as we can. So the entire series and each and every one of them, absolutely amazing.
Right. And you said something else that also stood out to me right now, where you say, you know, we're out here to encourage men to speak up and express themselves. As a woman, as nurturers that we are, how best can we encourage each other to be mindful of how men feel as humans rather than as men? Because let's judge each other like, you know, the human race more than women, men, whatever, dividing gender issues, whatever, right? How best can you encourage men to say, you know what, we need to be able to pay attention and not condemn them for being vulnerable, for being, you know, expressive of how they feel? Because keep in mind, I've always told, like, the one book that, you know, up until now I can resonate with it as a woman as well, because I see it happen too, right? Other than just me being a woman, where when you ask a man to express themselves, and when they do, you're like, well, why would a man do that? Like, what kind of man are you? Like, really? And then you're looking them down, and which, of course, inevitably makes them shy away or shut themselves off.
Again, I'll get back to identity crisis. Amanda, if you do not know who you are, you will not know who the next person is.
Absolutely.
You can't define and help somebody when you can't help yourself. Love yourself, love your neighbor as you love yourself. You need to be able to love thyself. You need to be able to understand thyself. You need to be able to honor thyself. You need to be able to respect thyself in order for you to extend a part of you.
Fill your cup.
If you are empty, you can't pour into anybody. Make sure you're whole before you move on to helping or to try to help and extend, you know. Hence, identity crisis. Who are you? How do you define yourself? What are you here to do? What is your purpose? What is your calling? The one thing that I always get from men, anytime I ask, what do men require? Respect. As women, if we understand what respect means, I think we'll be able to help the men in the best possible way. Respect is individual to every single person. Ask them, yes, you said respect, but what does respect mean to you? How do you want to be respected? disrespected. Because sometimes you want to help them, but our tone of voice, it's not respectful. You know, we're very, we're talking to them like we're talking to our children, right? Being a Proverbs 31 woman is understanding your place in a household, your place at work, your place at church, your place in a relationship, in friendship, and around your family as well. How do you conduct yourself? How do you carry yourself? You know, how do you pour out things that you pour out without holding certain things? As I mentioned, you can't pour out from an empty cup. The tongue is dangerous. Death and life lie in the power of
the tongue.
Sometimes we want to help, but we say things that are toxic and manipulative. Therefore, people don't want to be helped because of the way we speak to them, right? So we just need to, number one, work on ourselves first before we try and offer any help to the next person. You can't give what you do not have.
And also, I always say, if you don't love yourself, why put that burden on somebody else? Like, help me understand. Why should I give that burden to Shingie, yet I cannot even handle me? Yet I can't even handle myself. You understand? Why should I put burden on you?
The expectations that kill.
Absolutely. And as I was doing research for this project, I came across some men that still think that expressing emotions makes them feel emasculated. True or false? And why do you think that?
I'm not a man, so I'll not be able to speak on his behalf.
Okay.
People think differently.
Okay.
Environment, culture, exposure defines how people will react to certain things. If you speak to somebody whom, for lack of a better word, has got white privilege, they might say true. Some might say false. If you speak to a man of black origin, African origin, there's certain things that they'll say to you, I don't deal with this, I don't condone this. And then when they come, it's like, oh, things are different. As we mentioned earlier, culture shock. As a woman, there are things that I can directly say yes or no, but that is a question I'm going to have to pose back to men.
Man, this is for you. Please help us be able to help you. It's not our job to help, but how best can we chime in? If I should put it that way. So last but not least, what is the one thing that these men have in common? All the episodes, we spoke about what stood out, but there's one thing that was so common with all these men that we need to pay attention to.
They need space. The man cave. They need time to think. Just because a man wants time to think, it doesn't mean he's doing things that you're thinking he's doing. You know, they need space to offload, to download, to think, to reset, you know, the man cave. Ask your man, ask your father, your brother, your lover, your husband, what is your man cave? What defines you rebuilding, restructuring, rebooting, and allow them to be. If we allow them to do this, they'll be able to come back and say, listen, I need help with ABC, I need assistance with ABC. Let's just not think that when they're quiet, they're not listening. Oh, you're not listening to me. I've told you, haven't done this. Because us women, we ask for things, we expect it to be done like that in like the blink of an eye, you know. Respect a man and allow him to become the best version of himself.
Okay, ladies. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much, Shingie, for your wisdom as well. But as we conclude and summarize this episode, which is for the premiere, because those who are watching right now, we are watching the premiere, and that's the reason why we had to make this the premiere version. What advice can you give to actually watching? How best can we help each other, regardless of as man, woman, or whatever, but as human beings? And also, let's start with that one. You know me, I ask 20 questions at the same time. Let's try that one.
Identity crisis.
Okay, I didn't see that one coming, but yes.
Identity crisis. Identify who you are. Unlock your hidden treasure. Start with you. It all starts within. It all starts with knowing, So I literally have a set of who am I? What is my identity? What do I want out of life? Where do I see myself physically, mentally, spiritually in the next few hours, days, weeks, months, or years to come? What is my current status, when it comes to health, your finance, your career, your friendships, your relationships, your friends, and your family? What do you believe in? What do you want versus what do you need? What are your expectations versus what do people expect from you? What makes you happy and what makes you sad? What are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? And how far are you willing to change your life? Again, who are you? Identify what makes you you, how you can become the best version of yourself. And when that happens, you now start taking the necessary steps to start unlocking every hidden treasure within. I'll give you an example. Amanda managed to unlock herself, and here we are today with this phenomenal mental health awareness, show that's helping bring out the best in people. But it's because you identified and you realized that this is your calling, this is what you want to do. And now it doesn't become about you alone, but then it spreads out to the rest of the nation. Again, identify who you are, and that is the first step to then dealing with everything else. And accordingly, you'll be able to also deal with any mental health stuff that you're going through.
That is so true. And so where can people find Identity Crisis before we conclude today's episode?
So it's on Amazon. You can get it in the States, Canada, wherever you can access Amazon. For those that are in the UK, if you want personal copies, I'm on social media as Shingie Fundira. So that's on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Send me a direct message. My portfolio, my social platforms are all open. I'll be happy to send you a signed copy, of course, after you've paid for it. It's not free.
I will also pay for the signature.
Yes. And for those that actually want signed copies in Canada, do talk to Amanda and we can organize for signed copies to come through. But yeah, my book is it's readily available on Amazon, and also you can order directly from me. And if you want it posted, of course, it'll be like an additional postal,
Right.
Yeah, but yeah.
Thank you so much, Shingie, for coming through and sharing your knowledge, your wisdom based off of your expertise, your background, your being an author of one of the most selling books on Amazon and even just internationally, South Africa, here, UK, the States. I was like the Americas, but yeah, and all over. And we truly, truly, truly appreciate it. And those who would like to follow Shingie, do follow Shingie on her socials. And we've had a podcast together, and we're yet to have another podcast together. This girl is full of wisdom, guys. So please do follow Shingie on all social media platforms. With that being said, thank you so much for watching the premiere of season 5 of the Amanda Show, which will be readily available on Play Africa TV right now. So this is quite exciting because we got partner up with Play Africa TV as well as a not-for-profit organization that's based in Zimbabwe, but it is actually a global organization that's meant to support men and their mental health. Not even just men, but then they're open to supporting everybody with their mental health. Guess what? The good thing about it is, as expensive it is to seek counseling and help out there, this app is free. Without saying anything more, Shingie, do you have any last words to close today's premiere or any advice, any guys, any what?
No, thank you for this opportunity to, spread some love, share some love as well. Keep doing what you're doing, Amanda. This is great work, and I can pray and hope that it just reaches to the right people and it goes global. To everybody that's been a part of it, thank you for your stories. Thank you so much. Please continue being that voice of hope for other people. And if you're struggling with mental health, or going through some really, really distressing times or difficult times, feel free to approach somebody, talk to somebody, like Amanda said. And my last bit is identify who you are so that you can become the best version of yourself. There is power within of having that change mindset of becoming who you're called to be. Thank you and take care.
Ooh, check you out. Anyway, thank you so much, Shingie. And thank you so much to everybody for tuning in, for the love, for the support, for being here at the premiere today. As we move forward, we still need your support because this is just the beginning of the conversation, because we want it to be ongoing conversations. If you know anybody that's requiring help, please direct them to Nani, the app that just launched on February 10th, so they can be from there. See how that goes for them, or anything. Just encourage them to talk to somebody, right? So thank you so much, Shingie, and thank you so much to everybody for watching. Keep watching because there's more coming. Enjoy watching season 5 of the Amanda Natasha Show, because we have 8 phenomenal guests for you who managed to have the courage to share their stories, coming from guys who do not like opening up. So keep watching, take care, and God bless you. But remember, little goals and dreams become women of vision. Take care and God bless you. I love you. Mwah. Bye.